Oh no!
Good afternoon and welcome to the 31st Annual St. Cloud Area Chamber of Commerce Business Awards. 31 years we've been doing this. I'm Teresa Bonin and I'm very honored and proud to be the president of your St. Cloud Area Chamber. Now, we can begin our program with the 2018 Family-Owned Business of the Year, Anderson Trucking, and CEO Rollie Anderson. I believe this is a first for our awards program. In 1988, we had Rollie's father, Harold Anderson, on the stage accepting the Entrepreneurial Success Award. The Family-Owned Business Award celebrates the transition of a company from one generation to the next with a track record of at least 15 years of success. That criterion has certainly been met by Anderson Trucking. Things have changed a little bit in the years that Rollie has been leading the company, and the video will tell you how.
My father, after he got out of the service in World War II, began to manage some trucks for Cold Spring Granite, their private fleet. And as Cold Spring grew, Cold Spring encouraged them to go to the common carrier side of the business versus the private carrier. So in 1955, he incorporated, bought Granite City Transfer. It had 3 trucks, 2 of which ran, 2 drivers, 5 trailers, and an old wood shed with a 12 by 12 office. So that's how he started Anderson Trucking in 1955. And I began loading trucks when I was 14 and handling granite and so forth. By the time I was 18, I could drive intra-state Minnesota legally. I graduated from University of Minnesota in 1969 and Vietnam era, and joined the Air Force. And I spent 3.5 years in the Air Force. And that was probably one of the most formative times in my background. It helped me management style, build confidence, supervise people. And I had a job as working as data information officer for the base. So I got not only the good management skills, but also the opportunity to get very practical knowledge. Although I was very involved in ATS, but prior to that, my full-time dedication came in 1991. And that's when probably the transition happened from Dad to myself, which was a 5 or 6 year transition. It's never easy to make a transition from one generation to the other. Styles are different, your management techniques are different, your background is different, and as a dad always knows what's best. Dad was very much an entrepreneur and probably looked at organizational structure different than I did. My background in the Air Force had a very strict organizational structure, very strict accountability, checks and balances, and Dad was more of an entrepreneur, and he loved people, and he enjoyed people, and I guess my focus was more trying to make the business more efficient and more structured and more accountable. He always stated that, he built the farm, and what he was saying that he built the infrastructure, the basis on which the business could grow, and now it's ready to really grow and take off. So I appreciate what Dad did and the basis and the things that he provided so that the business could grow to what it is today.
For Rollie coming along, I think I can honestly say there would be no Anderson Trucking today. Rollie had the vision and the foresight to change the way that company was managed and to make the investment in new tractors when that was not the way things had been done in the past. In the 80s, nobody was doing very well. It was a big downturn in the economy and there was no extra money to be making that investment, but Rollie had the courage and the discipline to do that.
We got into the wind towers about 15 years ago when it was brand new. It was just starting out. Rollie had the foresight to make the investment. And he doesn't consider himself a risk taker, but he really is. And he made the investment and got us started into that. And we then developed over the last 15 years the expertise to make us the leading provider of wind tower solutions in the country.
The main strength that Rollie brings to his organization is integrity. Everybody knows, starting back with his dad, that the company can be trusted to do what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it.
I've been in many meetings where we would be talking about some issue that came up that was, we wanted to do X, Y, and Z. And almost without fail, Rollie would say, well, have we told them we would do this? And, you know, I've seen people him and haw around, and he'd say, no, I want to know if we've made a commitment or not. And anytime we've made a commitment, I've never seen him say, well, we're not going to do it. He has always said we're going to live up to our commitments. Another strength Rollie has is building teamwork. That's been one of the hallmarks of Rollie Anderson in my 25 years here, is that he has always been building that team, because he's a believer in team.
I think people are the key to success, and finding the right ones are very, very important. We believe in providing as many opportunities for our employees, drivers, office, shop, as we possibly can.
I don't know, I guess I would say that Rollie has that unique combination of skill sets that allows him to be a leader and be a successful entrepreneur, and yet be a truly likable guy. That's not that unusual. That's not that common. It's my experience.
Please welcome Rollie Anderson, Anderson Trucking Service, to the stage. Rollie. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Roger Schlepper of Premier Real Estate Services. Roger is chair of the Chamber's Board of Directors and will present the award from the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Teresa. As you would imagine, there are many things that need to be left out when you take a 63-year business story and whittle it down to a 5-minute video. For instance, we didn't hear about Rollie's early years running K&W Trucking in Alaska, working with the Alaska Pipeline and the drilling in Prudhoe Bay. We didn't hear about their phenomenal growth from 3 people in 1955 to almost 1,000 employees today, and from $100 million in revenue in 1988 to $1 billion today. That's billion with a B. That makes Anderson Trucking the largest carrier in Minnesota, the 31st largest logistics company in the United States, and the 34th largest carrier in the U.S. And we also didn't hear about Anderson Trucking's international business, which includes a longtime presence in Puerto Rico, where today they still are helping with the hurricane recovery efforts. Obviously, there's plenty more to tell. Rollie is the cover story in the July issue of Business Central magazine, so be sure to check that out. So at this point, it is my pleasure to present the 2018 St. Cloud Area Family-Owned Business Award to Rollie Anderson of Anderson Trucking Service.
Roger, Teresa, thank you for those very kind words. I would also like to thank the St. Cloud Chamber of Commerce and the selection committee for this great honor. I am pleased to accept it on behalf of Anderson Trucking Service, our entire family, and all ATS personnel. I'd like to thank the Chamber for all the important work that they do for the businesses in the St. Cloud area. I'd also like to congratulate the other award winners, Dan Pearson, Joel Brower, and Tim Berg. Congratulations. Harold Anderson, my father, started ATS, Anderson Trucking Service, in 1955. When speaking about ATS, he often said, "What's right is right. Now we just have to figure out what's right." I believe what he meant, that it is important to run a business with high integrity, honesty, and fairness. Doing what is right sets a standard that carries on into future generations. His approach to business still remains as a guide for us today. I'm sure as he looks down upon us today with a smile, that he's very proud of the legacy that he left. The transition process between generations in a family-owned business is never easy, primarily because of the multiple layered relationships that exist between family and business. The transition between Dad and myself was no exception, but it was always understood that family was the most important relationship. There have been many significant events that have influenced me in my career at ATS. At the top of the list, as was mentioned in the video, was my serving in the United States Air Force in West Texas. This experience helped me to lead ATS. The Air Force provided a training ground that included education, discipline, self-confidence, accountability, and organizational management. This experience was very foundational in developing my perspective and management style. This award is really not for me, but rather for the many who have supported our endeavors and created the ATS success story. First and foremost is our God, who continues to bless the generations of our family with grace, strength, vision, and resources. I am very grateful to my wife, Barbara. She has been my friend, partner, and #1 supporter for almost 50 years. In the early years, I traveled extensively, leaving her with the majority responsibility for raising our 2 children. During this time, she furthered her education with an undergraduate degree and on to 2 advanced degrees. Barb has been instrumental in helping me sort out the day-to-day priorities and keeping my feet firmly planted. Barb, would you please stand? I would also like to recognize our son Brent, who is Chief Operating Officer of ATS, and my nephew Scott Anderson, who is Executive Vice President and Treasurer of ATS. They are currently the face and the future face of ATS. Brent, Scott, would you please stand and be recognized? As I look back, I see 4 advisors or mentors who have played a significant role in my life and ATS story. Of course, my dad, Harold Anderson. He was a very unassuming and humble man who led by example and laid the groundwork for the future ATS. Although it's been 16 years since he passed away, he is very, very missed. Still very, very missed. Secondly, Max Bruce, who was Vice President of Traffic at Arco Oil and Gas in Dallas, Texas. In my early days, Mac taught me about customer relations and creating a true win-win relationship between customers and business. I would like to recognize Jake Wood, who served as COO at ATS for over 25 years and currently serves on the ATS Board of Directors, along with Lee Hansen, longtime family friend, advisor, and legal counsel. Both Jake and Lee have been there for me, coming alongside in business decisions and helping to set the ATS direction. I owe a great deal of gratitude to both of them. Lee and Jake, would you please stand and be recognized? I want to thank you for those very kind words in that video too. I don't know about that, but thank you. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, I would like to thank all the exceptional people who work at ATS. Our employees and drivers are the heart of ATS, and they make it all happen. I'd like to especially acknowledge the ATS leadership, many of whom are here today. Would all ATS employees please stand? As we look forward and transition to the next generation, the future of ATS is extremely bright. He asked me to get that in there, so there we go. So in short, I just want to say I'm extremely honored on behalf of ATS for this great honor. Thank you.